judges no longer want to do that. So we're having to make that concession of getting them moved back and forth. And so, and then on top of that, not having enough staff, having to bring in other people to do this for us because we can't. When I started, we had jailers transporting people without firearms. That's a bad situation unless we just have to do that. So we're using commissioned people to transport the inmates back and forth. So that takes particular shifts that are commissioned, and that takes bringing in some cases, Billy Schmidt, who is one of our jailer bailiffs, he does the transports if we have that. If he's available, if he's not running around out in the county, out of state or out in other counties picking up inmates that belong to us. So we are running on vapor to get that to happen, to make it happen. So John and I try to get the judges to do it via Zoom, but they just want, and they're the judge, we got to provide that for them.
So this accounting code 4909 transport inmate, is that primarily external billing when we're using? Because I mean, if you have a deputy brings them over here, it doesn't get billed to inmate transport.
Well, but what I'm saying is John will answer that, but I'm going to say this. We're still using more bailiffs, more jailers. We're still using that extra to make this thing happen. So what we're looking at, I'll let John go and step in right there.
There's a couple of reasons for the increase. One is that the courts are issuing more bench warrants. The judges send those all over the place to get them. If it's someone that we have to go get that's in the state of Texas, that does not fall under that. We're sending deputies and we're sending.
Right. That's what my question was. Where do we get this billing under this account code?
This is a contract transport service.
Okay.
Which we use a couple of different ones, and these are people that are typically a long way away. So even in certain parts of New Mexico, maybe Oklahoma, we'll send our people to get. These are ones that are farther away: California, Oregon, Washington, Ohio. And
those transports should cost $4,000 just for one inmate.
Yeah, the cost has gone up for the contract. But I think this year we've already transferred money into this line item because we're using.
Any other questions on that line? Do we sometimes try to recover those costs on when the case is adjudicated? Bill them as a cost if they're not in jail?
We'll add it to the judgment. I have to try to get the judge to add it to the judgment to try to recover some of it, but
I know. Right.
But I do see them on the judgment.
Okay.
And so they do put that as restitution. It's just we try our best to collect it and stuff. But also collecting that. But if they're in TDC grade for many years, they don't collect that. So
okay. All right. Thank you.
The other thing is we're getting warrants for people that we have had in the past that have fled the area. So when they do get apprehended wherever they're at, the goal is to get them back here so that we can put them in front of a courtroom and get them convicted if that's the ultimate, which is the ultimate goal forward. You know?
And then typically once you get them here, do you have to return them or do they then stay here?
Actually, once they get arrested there, they're holding them for us.
Okay.
And I think they have 10 days, John, for us to get there, get back with them.
Out of state's a little different because of that extradition process, but in state we have to leave within 10 days.
But typically if they get picked up, they were probably doing something wrong there as well.
Probably.
Most likely.
But
Or they could be picked up
we
on
don't
warrant.
Well, yeah,
we
they
don't
got stopped for
return
something.
them. Yeah, we
You'll
don't
have to return,
them. If they want them,
They come get them. Okay.
Yes.
If they have another charges there, then they have to come get them here and take them.
typically they won't release them to us until.
That and what they pull them over or stop them for could be a minor thing, and they'd rather get them off their books and get them over here. So, because they're like us, if they're holding them, they're paying for them. So they would say the quicker you get it, the better off we are. So. The next one's gonna be 6009 under 532. 609 machinery and equipment. We've gone up from 36 to 51,000 in that category. And that is to be prepared for possible electric equipment that could fail, washers, dryers, etc. And also, we are in the process of trying to replace 3 metal detectors for courtroom security. We currently do not have any metal detectors other than a hand wand right now for this courtroom or for this courthouse. The one that we have is way outdated. I wouldn't trust it.
So, under the machinery and equipment,
Mhm.
6009, you just spoke to that. 6005 is empty. You had budgeted 13,282 last year. And that was actually moved into there from
That was
somewhere.
for a server that you have to buy.
Right.
for
So
the
that-
jail.
So you don't anticipate something like that?
No, sir.
Okay.
Oh, this one, no.
Knock on wood, yeah.
I'm trying to look for some areas that we can cut.
That's why we had 15 in there on 609, because anything can happen, that's only a 1-year warranty. And if we have a washer dryer go out as well, then we don't have the funds in 609.
And the problem, everything we use is industrial, so it's expensive.
So I just want to clarify, 6005, we're going to leave at 0.
I think that's where they move money to pay for like the electronic.
Well, that's what I was gonna ask you, so that might be, I haven't seen exactly this light input or anything for the type of system I'm talking about. It's gonna have to go into one of those,
Okay.
or we were building.
I put the quote in that first line for it.
Right, and so we need to move it, so that's why I'm not sure what kind of equipment it is, if it would fall in the electronics, or if it's,
If it's a server.
so that
So
260.
Yeah.
It's a server. Okay, so that, the 260 needs to be in there. That's what I wasn't sure what.
Yeah, because that would be multiple.
Building servers. Okay, so
So
yes,
you put in 260 and 6005?
yes.
Okay.
And then the 6009 would be the 50.
Like I said, this is only our second budget. We're still waiting through that.
Well, I hope you get a 5th budget.
And I'm ready. I'm excited. I think we already went over the 4704. The other thing is it takes a lot of sit down, a lot of time. Phillips and John and I, along with the other administration, we're constantly looking at things. Unfortunately for us, we learn it because a lot of things are breaking, they're falling apart.
I don't know why your building's only 15, ours is 50. Well, 80, yeah, but I'm just rounding.
Okay.
Okay, so I think, did we cover 4704 already? For pre-employment screening, I want to make sure. Okay, so we're gonna jump over to 522, 6009, 6009, machinery and equipment. And I think this is the typo, so it's the same thing, we've already covered that. And then the next one, we don't really worry about that, that's handled by the copier information is handled by the auditor's office. So for the jail request that we're looking at, is to bring on 4 jailer positions. Right now, our overtime is exceedingly high because of the fact that we have people working shifts to cover the shifts that we're short in. One of the things that when you consider if we have 4 jailers, one of those jailers has to go into the console control room. So that really only leaves 3 people on the floor at any given time. You have an arrest and that person is combative. Now you have basically 2 people managing that person along with the law enforcement. And you have 1 person that is conducting the welfare checks, which is required by the state, by the Texas Jail Commission. Every so many minutes, someone has to go and do an eye visual on certain people. I think we're actually doing shorter time frames because of the fact that we are short-handed, so we're doing more visual checks to make sure we don't miss that. And if you ever go in there, you'll hear all the alarms going off. They constantly have alarms going off on the console there. That's to remind them to do the visits. So every 15 minutes, anyone who's in there under a suicidal watch has to be visually seen every 15 minutes. And the inmates are supposed to be technically done every hour, but we do them every 30 minutes. And that's just to make sure that we're not missing anything.
We're doing the entire jail, because Jeff addressed an issue with the fire and the smoke
Yes.
system out there. With it being down, instead of jail standards being normally an hour, which is what the jail commission requires, we're now, because that system's down, having to do checks for the entire jail every 15 minutes. So it's quadrupled the amount of work that they're doing in there. And Jeff, I think Jeff presented all that.
in his budget.
To get all that replaced, but until it's replaced, we're 15 minutes on the.
And that's what I keep saying, that things just keep falling apart on us and we have to revamp and we have to readjust to get these things to work and not being able to get fixed as quick. They've been in, but they're telling us that they're gonna have to replace certain things. And until that happens, we're using manpower to make sure that we don't get ourselves in a predicament of liability by missing something. So that's why we're shortening our routine from what's required. And that says a lot for the jailers that are constantly having to get up every 15 minutes to go check on someone and do that. Plus other things are required to do in that process.
So do we have any open positions in the jail?
Right now, no, I think we're full.
Okay.
But I have two that are fixing to leave for sure, fixing to go to PD. August 3rd, I believe, is tentative date. I don't have an exact date, but they've been hired with a very quick.
You've been able to maintain relatively full staff?
No, not until the last couple of months.
Yeah.
And now I got two more.
Just think how hard it would be if you have 4 more positions.
You're still in my thunder for why I'm going to the next level. Why that's happening, so yeah. So we're looking at a request for 4 jailer positions to eliminate the concerns that we have enough staff to handle arrests when they happen, maintain the floor, along with someone maintaining the brain or the control room at that point. If you consider, again, I encourage y'all to come by there and take a look at it because it's easier for you to see it than it is to. So the guy that sits in that console room, he can see all the hallways and everything, but he can't physically see. If someone's laying down, he can't really tell if they're breathing or not. That's the requirement of the jailer that goes to the room. They have, what do you call that again? The baton, whatever?
Pipes,
Pipe.
the timekeeping system.
Yeah, the checks when they do that. And when I went to the jail administrator school, it's required for sheriffs and sheriffs. They said that has probably been the most liable cost for counties because jailers did not follow through using that swipe or they falsified their records by saying they did it, but they really didn't. So you've got to make sure that these guys are doing exactly that, doing what they're required to do. So the next thing, if you look at the screen, that we're asking for is 3 more peace officer jailer positions. Right now, we have simultaneously on most days, we have court at law upstairs, and then we have district court over at the jail or above the jail in the district court room. And right now we're running with 2, realistically. We do have a part-timer that we're working on getting finished up on the application process. That'll assist us. But we really, of course, I hate to say so much, but really at any given moment, you only have one person that's managing this entire building. And then that person sometimes has to manage upstairs. If he can't manage it, then what we're doing is like, for example, last week, we were bringing in a deputy to manage the courtroom upstairs because we don't have the manpower to manage that courtroom. But I want a certified armed police officer protecting our judges and protecting our jurors and protecting our witnesses, and including protecting the suspect. And right now, we're having to bring guys in off duty to cover that position because we just don't have the manpower. And we need at least 6 total, and that would cover 3 for this area, 3 for that area, which inevitably we turn 2 to here, potentially 2, because those two of those could be doing jail transport from other areas as well during that time frame. Billy Schmidt, I can assure you, as a transporter, he's probably putting 600, 800 miles a day, picking up inmates all over the state of Texas and around here. So we need more people in that section. We're looking at it. We went high on both the jail staff and for the bailiffs at the 10 years experience at 93. That doesn't necessarily mean we're going to hire someone in 10 years. It could be less, but we wanted to go on the higher end, which comes to a total of 93 times 3, to 279,000. But as we progress, that's why we're making changes in the courtroom. Things that didn't happen in the past. When my wife was on jury duty, she noticed that when she was up there, that the person that was doing the metal detector looking for guns was unarmed. And she worked in Bear County where that was not something that ever happened. So when I found out about it, called John said, Sheriff, that's all I've got right now. So we changed that to where I say, if we can't do it with a jailer that's certified, then you need to bring in a patrol officer that's off to come in and work overtime. Because I do not want us to get caught in a situation where we do not protect y'all or the jurors or the courtroom.
Sheriff, I'm assuming when you're saying that 93,000, that is not benefits or anything else. That is just paid
That
out.
includes everything.
That includes
That's
everything.
Benefits, yes, sir. That's benefits and everything, yes, sir. Everything that we gave you is complete package. We hire them, this is what it's gonna cost. Phillips and I visited a smaller county. And I walked in and I was like, man, that would be the dream for Gillespie County to have the protection system they have in their courthouse. You can't even walk in the front door without being in a metal detector. And then they have their security office right next to that, so that when someone walks in, they stand right there, they watch the metal detector, they can do that. It's not invasive, it's actually pretty easy going. We stood there and watched. Public did not have any issues as they walked through the metal detector coming into the building, but they had it funneled down to where everybody could visually be seen coming into the courthouse, so all the bailiffs and the security team that was there, they could see them. They had 2 full-time deputies that were monitoring that. And then we did a drill over there so they could show us how that worked. The deputy, one stayed on the first floor, one went up to the upstairs floor, so they had a deputy on each floor during that drill. So they have an alert system that works off our patrols out there that are on patrol to come to the courthouse because they have an emergency. So they have a pretty neat little system. So we're kind of scoping out what other courthouses are doing. Okay, so if you look at the total cost for the 4 positions plus the 3 positions, we're looking at $635,000 to build up our jail and our courtroom security. Any questions on that? We're going to move into the LEC. One of the biggest things for me, so we're doing our best to help as well. We just sent 5 jailers to a training to where they can be certified to carry firearms, so we're making that effort. However, we're in the early stages of that. 2 projects that we got to work on is one is we need to do more training with them to be prepared how to handle that situation in a courtroom. And 2, we've got to provide the vests that are going to go along with carrying the firearm too. So we're working on that. So I think we're gonna get to that here in just a minute, but I'll bring it up since it's not. So if you look at Gillespie County, we are the lowest paid jailing staff. If you look at every county that touches us and then every county that touches that county, we are the lowest. If you go to Blanco, which we're gonna see a handout here shortly of what the deal is. So just when Don was talking about, are we full? We were full, but then 2 people took a job, and one of those individuals took a job in Blanco, left us and made $5 more an hour just driving from here to Blanco. So that's something we're gonna have to look at, but we'll get to that handout here in a minute. That's what he's asking me about.
I just want to clarify, you're talking about jailers?
Yes,
Jailer
sir.
salary?
Yes, sir. So we are the lowest paid jail staff in the counties that touch us. Even Blanco County is making almost $5.10 more than we are now. You'll see that here in a minute. I have a handout on that. Which I give our jailers, I just met with them the other day, I give them tremendous respect because they still are here. And I have assured them that I will make a facility and a leadership that would be worthy of working for. But at some point, we've got to pay them. We've got to give them what they deserve. And I would challenge you to be able to do a 12-hour shift with them to see what they do with it. And I would do it on a night that's really busy, so that you can really see what they're having to do. Okay, so we're going to switch over to the LEC. So on the first one, which is 10-514-4704, It is for medical staff, and that is for the polygraphs that we do, is that also psychs? Okay, gotcha. Making sure. So we do polygraphs for anyone that is employed that will be a patrol deputy. Even if you're a current jailer and you want to move into patrol, you still have to go through a polygraph test. We are requiring everyone to pass a polygraph. Okay. And we're hoping to increase, but anytime we lose someone or we gain someone, we have to do a polygraph to replace that person.
So we've got some conflicting information on our budget. The request shows 500 and it says increase by 500 from 300 to 500 on the slide. So what do you want the number to be?
I had
800?
a typo, he corrected it, we had a typo. So what, technically it's gonna wind up being, it's gonna be for 300, should have gone up, 500. So really, we should be going up to 500 is what we're looking at.
Two 500 or two
Yeah.
800?
This is the 200.
4704 should be
$200
500.
increase.
It's correct on here.
Okay,
That
so
was
it's
my
correct.
typo.
Yeah.
I fixed it, but by the time I get to the other one, I figured we can walk through it.
All right, I think we're square on that one.
You can spare 200, I hope. But anyways, okay, so the next one, which is 4709, other professional services, the language line, this is used by the JPs and by jailers and even by officers, depending on the circumstance. This is a translation, so if we arrest somebody from another country, we can then reach out to that country to translate for the court, JP, and or for the jailer, and or for potentially the officers being what's going on. That's a must-have.
There's some months we have $1,100 bill, so, if we hit that every month, we don't have enough in budget, so that's why it was a 2,000 increase, just to get it to where, if we hit that every month, we can cover.
I also wish is that next year we're gonna put in the budget for the body cameras to translate. And right now Axon has an amazing system that can go up to 60 languages. Just by talking, it tells you what they're speaking, and then it says it'll actually translate your voice to them. In that, if you want to look it up with the Bear County, just implemented that across the patrol. But that would be huge for that. It'd be huge during investigations to translate automatically without having to make hardly any effort. It's not cheap, so we'll chip away at it.
So this is just for jail use, for jailers, when you're booking and I guess
So the-
interacting with the inmates.
It just falls under the LEC budget.
Yeah.
Somehow, so.
For the magistration, where's that? Is that paid for by the JPs for their, when they use language line, or is it part of this? Do you know?
The auditor's office separates it.
So yes, the 514 encompasses all of the county officers' interaction with inmates as well as the FPD's interaction, which is why it's in 514, because it's a shared cost. Same invoice, same services are billed for the JPs, but those are broken out.
Okay. So this is utilized by any arresting officer, it could be PD or
Well,
DPS, or is it all just for sheriff's
That's
office?
a good question. I do believe that if the JPs, no matter who arrests, the JP's gonna magistrate
Right.
next door, whether it's a PD or whether it's a county. So that's something that we could look into to see if there's a potential that they could pay a percentage of this.
Well, I think that's what
They already
Chris was
paid the
alluding
half
to, that it
Yes,
was,
I'm saying yes.
So-
So that's something that we could look at.
okay.
It should not be the PD or DPS. It should only be for the SF.
See, really, once they hand that inmate over to us, there are inmates. They don't want every less than County Sheriff's Office.
Well, like it's in 514.
So like, what if they, it's like, say they arrest for DWI and they're gonna do breathalyzer. So I mean, I guess technically at that point, are they still in custody of the arresting officer? They haven't been transferred to jail yet?
So once they officially book him, he's no longer custody arresting officer. He does the paperwork and the court process. But if it's a DWI, the odds are it's gonna be a Class B or A misdemeanor, which then puts him solely on the county of Gillespie. Class C's is iffy, depending on how you look at it. I think we held, our Class C's totaled about 42,000 last year that we held technically for the city. So that's what we spent, I think it was $80 a day, John? $80 a day that we would spend on holding a city person that's arrested for a Class C for 1 day, is about $80. So about 42,000 is what we cover for the city's arrest of Class C misdemeanors.
Just Class Cs.
That's Class C's only. For Class B or above is requirement of the county of Gillespie, for the sheriff's office.
Yeah, when you say city people, they're city arrested.
Yes, even if the city, yeah.
I mean, they could be from wherever.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
To your question, Judge Jones, typically when they're doing the intoxilizer stuff
Yeah.
and the blood draws, they're not in custody of the jail.
Right. So I'm wondering if they use language line like for that circumstance, if they've got a non-English speaking.
They would have to, or I think court proceedings, that would be if they make the effort to make sure they're translating the requirements for the paperwork, I think that would be extremely more valuable if they did that. So,
Okay. I think I've opened a
I
can of
will say
worms.
that in my early years, I only arrested 2 people that we had to call. Back in the day, you call the 1-800 number and you told that person, like, talk, and then that person, you go, oh, that person speaks this, and like, okay. And they say stand by, then they would put on a person that spoke that language. It's a little different now, so.
And it's not, it used to be almost entirely Spanish translation. Now we're seeing Honduran, I mean, we're seeing Micronesian, we're seeing all different kinds of languages.
Any questions on that one? Okay, now we're gonna go into the sheriff's office lines of 545, 4401 is gonna be fuel and oil. We wanna up at 50,000. The vehicles that we have now, I've done a lot of research on this whole GMC thing. We think, or people think, I don't say we, I've talked to a lot of people, they think they're using the soft oil, they should be using a heavy oil, but in order to keep these cars running, we're having to now add additives to this. The mechanics are having to do that. Mike could tell you a little bit more, which is increasing our cost per unit, et cetera. And then, of course, just the cost of fuel going higher. That's, we're up to that point, and we're averaging about 20,000 a month, give or take. But our vehicles are, we're hoping to get our new. We have 11 trucks that we're still waiting on to get in the fleet. And that makes some changes as far as the additives, because they're newer engines, but for now, that's what they're requiring us to do, is a lot of additives to the vehicles. Any questions on that one?
I don't
Okay,
think
the
so.
next one will be special clothing, 4408. We upped it from 35,000 for armor and carriers. If we are blessed to get to increase our patrol division with 4 deputies, we're just taking into consideration what it's gonna cost for us to, make sure I'm on the right one. Yeah, what it's gonna cost to outfit those individuals. And again, we want to try to keep 2 generic size bulletproof vests for spares for when we hire someone, because once we hire them, then we get them measured so that the bulletproof vest fits them personally for their height, size, and weight. So we just want to make sure that we have enough income or enough money there that we increase our manpower, and then also to maintain what we already have. That's including the outer carrier that I'm wearing now, plus the internal vest itself. That's what we're talking about when we talk about the armored carriers and then the actual vests. We have,
Sheriff, I'm sorry, didn't you request or purchase like a pretty large number of vests recently?
yes, sir.
I think when you came to
How many are
office.
we waiting on?
We're waiting on an order, for 17, I believe it is.
17?
It's supposed to come in next month. That will cover us for this year. We still have an X amount that are gonna expire. We're gonna get on a system where we shouldn't have to order some for a year or 2 maybe, other than some small amounts, but this would cover, like 2 for turnovers, we have the spares, and then we have 2 openings right now. If we order them now, we can't get them for about 6 months, it takes that long.
We were supposed to get them already, but something happened and we're now
Yeah, they-
not till
They
August.
canceled their order somehow, and then somebody picked it up and ran with it, so we're supposed to get them in August, we're supposed to get them in June. And we ordered them in March, so it just takes a while.
How many years are they good for when you say they
5.
expire? 5?
They'll give you one extra.
We're very far behind on a lot of them, so we're trying to get caught up, and then of course, we had some expire this year, we'll have some more expire next year, so trying to get that leveled off to where we can.
So it won't be as many and as often. They'll give you an extra year, but 5 is the max.
So, I mean, y'all are ordering 20 body armor, but then 25 carriers. Why, I mean,
Because the ones that they're wearing this year, they might be good for a year before they start wearing out, because they have one and they washed it. But they only have one, so they have, after duty, they gotta take all their gear off.
So you see this right here? This is already wearing from getting it out of the car, et cetera. So
So for 5 spares, so the carriers for 20 would cover the 20 armor, and then 5 to replace ones for the guys that are having stuff around.
so if you're replacing 20 every year, so to speak, that's 100.
No, it wouldn't be every year.
the
Yeah, you said
carriers-
it would go down for a few years, whatever. Okay.
Oh, absolutely. Once we get caught up, then we can cycle 5 or 10 at a time rather than that many. We had 11 vests that last year we came to y'all because we had 11 vests that were expired. One of them was expired by 10 years. So we had to go and order all those vests. So now we're trying to do the same thing with vests that are expired this year. Hopefully we get on a cycle that every 4th year we're ordering only a handful of vests and they're coming in before they actually expire. So that's kind of what we're making up for some lost ground.
Problem is, we're ordering a bunch at one time, and they're gonna land that way.
Yeah.
So they're all in the same program, so the time span for each cycles.
But, it all just comes down to timing realistically. But we don't want to, we took all the best last year that were old off the street and off the use. So we at least now have everybody in current best, expired next year or this year, but at least we're current, up to date.
So, yeah, I mean, y'all are adding those items to it, and then y'all have the current budget at 46, and y'all are adding that all together. So what's in the current budget that's in addition to or separate from that?
We have 17,000 in reserve to cover that bill, for that order that's coming in August, so we're saving that to pay that bill this year. It's normally around 46 every year is what the budget is. So.
Yeah, I think the question is, what is in that 46? What do you pay for with the 46, the normal part?
Pants, shirts, holsters, everything that goes with all these Molly gears,
Everything
everything,
I'm wearing, yeah.
all the uniform stuff, hats, everything comes out of there, so.
The ultimate goal is for us to get uniform eventually. That's what we're looking for. We still have some of the outer vests are looking like what I'm wearing, but we still have some that are the older style.
So if we just get the armor and the carrier, we still have to buy all the pieces that hold all the gear out of that budget, so. And that stuff adds up too, so.
Yeah, these are classified as Molly vests. They clip on, they latch on so they don't come off. Good. The key thing is that when it comes to bulletproof vests, just between Kendall and us, we've had 3 officer-involved shootings. Kendall has had 2, all that within the last 6 months, that we've had officer-involved shootings. So we've got to make sure that they're wearing the best of the equipment that they have out there. The other thing is when you go to these poly vests, putting the weight on the shoulders and the body is better than putting it on their hips. So that actually helps our deputies not be so struggling back problems, all those kind of things. So, yeah. So to me, this is the only way to go, isn't it, for the future. So, and some of the guys have everything they need sitting right here other than their firearm. And actually what's coming at the end of this month is we're gonna put a holster on it to hold our tasers. For some of those guys, for the first time, they're gonna have tasers at the end of this month. So that's another item we're gonna add on. Any other questions on that? We do need some testing.
Negative. What does all that weigh?
I picture with the gun belt, probably close to 35, 40 pounds by the time you take it off. I handed it to a chiropractor today. She goes, "No, I don't want your place." So yeah, because it is not light, but you get used to it, but it is not light. That's why I tell people if you run from a young deputy and you stop, he's probably not going to, so be prepared. He's gonna take you out, so yeah. Not intentionally, it's just the way it rolls. Okay, so let's look at 10-545, 4503, automotive and road equipment. We are looking at, our maintenance has gone up for our vehicles, making budget adjustments so that we stay ahead of the game. With this, we upped it from, I don't have what it was, but we're moving it up to 105,000. Was that? It was 70 before, and we're going through repairs on vehicles, so 70 is just not covering it. Some of these vehicles are running heavy, especially now that these off-duty deputies are coming in to work another 12-hour shifts. That means that car is going for 72 hours nonstop, basically, while on patrol. So they're getting driven pretty hard. So if you go to the next one, which is 545, 4601 subscriptions, we upped that budget line from up by 7,600. We shared that cost with the county attorney's office, and this is for a program that allows investigators to do investigations on people, individuals. When they enter their information, they get all the details about that individual. It's actually pretty impressive. If I was to put in your property, it'll tell me who visits that place by cell phones. It's pretty amazing how much information it gives the deputies, so that we know what we're walking into if they're going to be doing an arrest or if they're going to be doing a warrant service. It gives them a lot of information. And narcotics divisions use it regularly, and they're the ones that kind of came to us and asked for the opportunity to keep moving forward with it. But there's also what the county attorney uses it as well, so they told us that it would be going up. It's actually gone up significantly over this last year. They warned us it was coming. Dale. Okay, so the next one, which is 4704, 545, 4704, is up by 7,000, increase for 3-point screening process and fees associated with those. So for a person, if I was to hire one of y'all, we're gonna put you through a polygraph, a psychological, a impulse test, and a, was it? Medical and drug screen. So we think it costs per person about $800 to $900 should be that per deputy. And we've added the polygraph and the impulse test based on an incident that we dealt with. I will, at this point, say that we will make every effort. It doesn't mean we're going to be successful, but we can at least say we've made every effort to prevent that from happening. And then 4709, other professional services. We've gone up to 7,500 we've had a lot of fender benders. So we've had a lot of deductible claims, et cetera. Oh, yeah, he's got a point. That's not just car wrecks, but since we have, we installed their use for TAP because of the officer involved shooting that we had, with Deputy McCullough. So they hire attorneys to look at the cases. We just met with them last week to decide, so there's fees there that we incur from the sheriff's office.
That alone was 3,000 just to cover that deductible. So any kind of incident that's gonna happen on the streets will be about 3,000 fees.
So if you look at what we paid for, probably paid 6,000 so far this year.
So that deductible is for legal fees?
Legal fees, yes.
Yeah, and so, I mean, the sheriff's office has some claims. We've had other departments that have claims also, and they don't carry this kind of line. And so I think we might need to push all of this to like a non-departmental legal contingency, as opposed to having each department carry sort of a fund for potential. So if there's a claim, TAC we'll assign outside counsel, but we have a deductible, I think most of our $5,000. So if there's legal work that's done, up to that $5,000, we have to pay that, and then after that, TAC covers the remainder of the legal fees. And so, some of these are like officer-involved shootings and things that are just, happen in the course of law enforcement business. So, sheriff's office has got a pretty big budget, and so they can absorb some of that, but some of the other departments don't have that, and they can't absorb that cost. And so, that's a discussion we can have, I guess, if we want to just carry all of that in a non-departmental, legal contingency fee for that purpose, as opposed to having each department carry that.
And each occurrence would have a deductible similar to?
Right, each claim usually has a deductible independent. So, if we've got 2 or 3 cases pending, each one will get incremental billings up into that deductible amount.
I would say we actually had 3 uses for those deductibles so far since I've been in office. So that would accumulate to about $9,000 if we were to say each one was free. So there's that potential. I'm going to say this about the deputies. They're out there hustling. So the more they hustle, the more they do their job, doing traffic stops, things, the potential is higher that they're going to get involved in stuff like that. This morning we had 3 individuals flee on foot, and one of the deputies had to reach in and throw the car in the park today. And so there's always, as long as they're hustling, things are high potential for that to happen. So, and that's what we're getting paid to do. So, earn and keep.
So I guess from a budgeting standpoint, if we want to, as a policy, pay all of those out of a non-departmental legal line, as opposed to having each department responsible or try to pay for their deductibles.
Seems to make
We can move
sense.
the money.
Yeah, you won't hurt my feelings, that's all.
Doesn't mean you can go hog wild on it. though.
Well, I know,
I mean, some of them are like sort of, in my opinion, somewhat frivolous claims. There's one that was related to, I guess, immigration-related activities that our sheriff's office had very minimal interaction in, but now we're part of that broad litigation. And so something like that we have really no control over is just going to come up from time to time.
Right. And you gotta take consideration, we assist another agency. If we're just there to help harass them, get them handcuffed, we're still in that liability or that lawsuit link because we were there. So it's just the way it is. But we can't leave a fellow officer hanging either, so we gotta respond. Okay, so then the next one is going to be radio service, 4802. We upped it 6,000 to 28,000 for increase in radio airtime and maintenance costs. We just purchased 10 radios handhelds. We're trying to get into the new system for all the deputies. The radio that I'm carrying right now has a lot more capabilities and features and is more worthy than the ones that some of our deputies are carrying right now. So we're trying to get that up to speed where everybody's carrying the same radio. And then any radio that we have left over that's still reasonable, we can use in our jail staff. So. Any question on that? The next one's gonna be 5602 dues, up to 4,900. We went from 31 to 49. To pay our Sheriff's Association dues was 3,500 to pay for this year. And so we want to make sure that we have enough to cover that. The advantage of joining the Texas Sheriff's Association is that they offer free trainings for deputies and for sheriffs.
So will we see training costs go down?
So the current cost on it now is 3,500 a year. So I think we had, how much in there at that point? 18 last year, so we're trying to make sure we have that. We had to transfer money in there, I believe, to make it work.
We didn't pay the dues last year, so we weren't part of the association. So, one of those new things when you come in, find out later. And your question of the training budget going down, we didn't ask for a decrease. This would just be additional training. If we're trying to get a team up and running to respond, That's what part of the rifles are for. They're still gonna have a large training budget. And so that original, when it was 40,000, when we came in, we requested it to 80 to have enough to cover training for enough people to take a certain amount of training each year. That will definitely be needed later.
Okay, under 545-6004 automotive, we are looking to purchase 5 vehicles at a cost of $440,000. That's, we've updated for 5 of them, base is 88 plus updated puts them at 440. For that, for those vehicles, we are still continuing to work on getting our fleet up to speed.
Sheriff, just a quick question on 5612 on K9, you're budgeting 25. I mean, you've never used over $7,000.
But if we hit medical problems, then we have doctor bills and those are expensive. So we use some seizure money this year to pay for one of the doctor bills on the vet bills on one of the canines. So having those dogs, if we have a $5,000 bill twice, something like that, we're not gonna have. It's almost like just kind of stay at that just so we have enough to cover.
Okay, going on to, I'll give you a automotive. The next one's gonna be electronic equipment. We're up to 122,000. We upped it by $12,353 for new radios needed. This is for the new party.
We've got 7.
Yeah, so if we get more vehicles, we're gonna need to install radios into those units, so that's what's gonna increase for that. We're gonna be asking for 7 more patrol officers. And we'll explain that more here shortly. And then 80-20 is the right to lease principal stock or radar. We went up 6,866 for stalker radar contracts. We have a total of 30 units being used right now. And so we kind of got into a wonky system that Phillips had to encounter. We were looking for 8.
Really? Yes.
And then we only found out there was 4. So yeah, we had poor Frank Hallbecker was digging through everybody's cars and closets, and then it turned out they were wrong. It wasn't 8. But we're looking that we have 2 different contracts, leases, I should say, 2 leases. So one is for 22 and one is for 8 radars that we now have.
Are these numbers come from the auditor's office or did they estimate?
It's the, what we're being invoiced by the vendor.
Okay.
That's the number,
So it's-
22 and 80.
Y'all believe it's
Yes.
right, okay. Because y'all fill in those generally, right? The 80-20.
Yes, I put those in because they are itemized
Mhm.
and on a schedule,
Mhm.
but I share them as I do the others with the sheriff's office.
All right.
But we need to put numbers in there, yes.
Yes. correct.
You need what?
We, Marcy has all those.
Okay. All right.
Sorry, I don't have them.
Just because it's a big amount, I got to ask, the 60-20, and that's that Axon, what does all that do?
As far as,
Well, it's $1 million worth. What does it do?
so you're talking dash cameras, body cameras, and then tasers. That covers all the above, plus 2,
That was the SB 22 money.
that's what we're using. We're paying that with the SB 22 money.
That's broken into 250 something a year for the next.
Yeah, I think you're looking at the 2025. Yeah, that $1 million, that's the capitalization of it. So it wasn't
Yeah.
actually money spent. That's the value of the lease
Okay,
that they
that's right.
put onto that. Is that right? Yeah.
Again, we discussed it with the auditor and with the judge, and it was just easier on the county just to pay for something than it was to try to do payroll, so we just made that adjustment. So the good news about using our Senate bill money over the next so many years is it does save us $1 million out of our budget, out of the general fund that we're offsetting by using our money on that. But
Yep.
we needed the cameras, body cameras are mandatory unless you have a small department that they work with you, but for us, we meet that mandatory requirement. So that's how we're offsetting that cost, is using Senate bill money. And then the difference on that, while we're there, the difference on the Senate bill money is about 95,000 left over. So we're gonna look at purchasing 2 smaller vehicles for our CID division. So with that excess money that we have left over from our Senate bill money.
And replacing them, not adding,
Yeah.
because they're high mileage.
Yeah.
So we're using some to get more vehicles.
And going back to your question on the canine, the good news is because they're used for narcotics use, we can actually reach into the money, the seizure money, and we should have to do that. But, it's just one of those things that we want to make sure we have something there ready to roll rather than have to move money. Because then I would have to go and ask for that money to pay for something, and that kind of stuff, so. And I'll cover that here in just a minute on the seizure stuff. All right, so if we go to the next slide, we are looking at what we would like to add to the patrol division or to the sheriff's office. Period is 7 patrol deputy positions. We are looking at total cost for a deputy is $115,000 at a 10-year experience. That does not mean that everyone we hire will be at a 10-year experience. It just means that we want to be at the highest level and have excess rather than be behind. The need for the 7 patrol deputies is twofold. One, to help cover the movements that we've made in our office to add to our CID, to our narcotics. Both those are on hold until we get more manpower, but you'll see our stats here in a minute and why we see we need that movement. We want to make sure that we have the ability to cover the county, to add to CID narcotics, to make sure that we're continuing to do what we're doing. And I'm going to give you some stats of how much these guys are working right now in that. So the next thing is we're talking about what it's going to cost. I'm sorry, let's go. So the total cost for 7 positions at 115 is 805,000. And I'm going to talk to you about ways that we can assist the county in offsetting some of that. The next thing that we want to look at is just to give you an understanding of what it costs us as a county to hire a jailer, such as the one that went to Blanco County. So we basically invested $425 for the jail school. For uniforms, including the staff vests that we provide, is $1,832. And then the FTO trainer, who probably making about $65 a year, and time spent with them to train them, is about $153,000 per trainee that's invested in that individual. And then that person sees an opportunity to take what they've learned from us and then move on to the neighboring county because they pay $4, $5, $6, in some cases $7 more an hour than we make. And then if you look at the recommendation is that we're looking for at least a 6-hour pay increase for our starting jail pay. In a minute, we're going to look at handouts that I gave you so that you can see the differences between the counties and ourselves. That's what we're looking to get our jailers up to speed. The jailers have not received an increase in pay since 2022. Patrol has, other administrators have, but the jail staff has not done anything but receive basic increases through the county. So again,
Just like the rest of the county.
What's that?
Just like the rest of the county.
Yeah, well, I would challenge anyone else in the rest of the county to go do what a jailer does and
No,
see what they
I'm-
experience and what they see. I agree with you,
Yeah.
but at the same time, what they're doing, who they're spending their time with, at our blessing to be able to stay in that jail cell or stay in those rooms with 12, 24 people, meaning that's the difference in what I'm saying. But at the same time, to be Gillespie County, to have the lowest paid jailers in the 5 counties that touch us, including 2 smaller counties, is the thing that we have to consider.
Now, on this slide, you're saying 2066 an hour is where you hire a new hire, green off the street.
Yes,
The
sir.
the neighboring counties that you have here, is that the same situation, green hire, or is that what they're?
Well, we would have to work, John has put together something that if we get this approved, we can start working on how this would work for the rest of the staff. Because we have to make sure.
No, my question is on that survey on the neighboring counties,
Mhm.
is that their experience? That's their starting,
That's their starting.
no experience.
Just a base.
Yes, comparing apples to apples.
Yes.
Okay, that was my question.
Yes. So if you look at the gentleman that left us, he came here, he had like a year experience prior to us, and he had about 4 months experience with us after we got him trained. Literally the day after he got certified as a jailer, he walked away, started making $5 more an hour, less than, 25 miles from here. Yes. So we can't hire someone at the age of 18 without zero experience. We're gonna pay him 2066? Where someone else can pay him 24 or better. So if you look at the next slide, it shows you what the neighboring counties are making, and it talks about that we start at 2066. And then if you look at the jail size, so Lano has a 54 bed with 36 average population, Blanco has a 56 bed with an average population of 18. Kendall has 153 beds with 87 people. And Kirk County has a 328 bed with 219 people population. And looking at some of the stats that John was able to find, we're actually working, rotating daily, just as many as some of the larger counties are doing under incarceration and arrests.
And on these average daily populations, gentlemen, our average daily population is more than 3 of these counties combined. Not, other than Kimball and Kirk, obviously, but Lano, Blanco, and Kimball, I looked at Kimball also, so including them, our average daily population is more than those 3 put together. But every one of them is paying more than what they are.
And what are we at on average?
Anywhere from 70 to 82 something daily.
Why do you believe that is, that we have a higher population?
We have more people coming in.
It's visitors that come in?
So it's weekend traffic, so to speak.
We
Transit.
average close to Kendall and Kirk as far as bookings and releases. But we have people coming in, they're getting arrested, they're coming to jail, they get magistrate, they bond out. They're not staying with us like they, because they're tourists, they're visitors.
Yeah, transit.
I think one night we had 11 that were arrested on one overnight shift. They were between the city and the sheriff's deputies, they arrested 11 people. So when I look at it, it's average about 4 to 5 a night sometimes. We do have days where we only have 1, but the average is about 4 or 5 incarcerations throughout that shift. So, according to the statistics of the Bureau of the Community for Fredericksburg, it says an average of 1.5 to up to 3 million pass through Gillespie County. And so that's how many people that are coming through here. And if you consider some of them have a really good time, that's how many potentially they could wind up in our jail in Gillespie County. So that's a lot of people, a lot of traffic the county's deputies are handling. And you can't get to Fredericksburg unless you get to the county. So that's what you're gonna look at. All right, so let's go to the next slide. This is what our CI, if you would look at the handouts, the first one, let me do this. Let's go to the narcotics handout, the first one. Those are the handouts that we gave you. The first one is narcotics. I can't say a whole lot about the team as far as what's going on with them, but I can say that they have done an outstanding job since day one of creating and moving these guys into that position. If you look at that first handout, it talks about how much cash they've seized, and that's just from January to current. How much methamphetamines, how much cocaine, THC, heroin, shrooms, and fentanyl that they've seized since this is just January. This is not for last year. It would probably double if we did last year. This is just this year. If you go down, look at how many cases that they made working. If you look at how many arrests that they made just doing the search warrants and how many wanted people they picked up in that process. And we can't say the name, but he's not the best looking guy, but he managed to get 4 people to hire for prostitution. So we'd have 4 arrests in the county for prostitution with the intent to deliver narcotics and trade for the sex. But they actually thought they were talking to a young female. So that's part of it. If you turn the page, that just tells you pretty much what these guys have been doing. But if you look at that first page, you look at how many firearms are taken off the streets this year alone, and you look at how many what do you call it, okay, let me see, I think it's on the next one, it talks about the firearms. But we have taken,
Tim.
I think it was 9 firearms, everything ranging from rifles to handguns, in those scenarios. And some of those were taken off of people here in Gillespie County, whether it be out in the county or in the city limits of Fredericksburg.
Yeah,
So I can't say enough about the guys that are doing it. They just need help. Then if you go on to the next one, which is the mental health handout. Right now, the way it's set up is James Cruzy is our current mental health officer. And I'll talk about Wayne here in a minute. He's in our SR system. But these are the things that our mental health guys are doing. He needs help. By hiring more deputies for patrol, we can relocate other people to assist in the mental health. If I say there's one thing that we are seeing regularly in our county is the mental health struggles of our people. I hate to say this out loud, but it's the reality is that we're probably one of the highest suicide rate counties in the area. We have a lot of people who commit suicide in Gillespie County. And I'm gonna say this, with the work that James Cruzy has done, I give him a tremendous shout out. He has, I guarantee you, has saved lives and has gotten people the help that they need. But at the same time, that has also prevented our deputies from responding to a person in mental health in a mental health state that we may have had to use deadly force or force on those individuals. So if you look at the numbers, he put in there basically what happens when you get called and how long it takes for him to do that. But realistically, the biggest thing that I will say next to narcotics is that the mental health situation that we have. The police department just had a person 2 nights ago fired rounds into the air. They arrived on scene, ready to learn that she struggled from a mental health situation. So she was hospitalized under that. So we have a lot of individuals that do need that help and that care. And if you, the other positive is that in our jail, we have a mental health specialist that sees our inmates, and we have a drug addiction specialist that sees our inmates. So the other thing that if you turn to the next page for the SRO part of it, we have 2 SROs that are assigned to the FISD school district currently. We are looking at, this is the next contract that we're looking at. One of the things I asked for is to increase the hourly rate per deputy. So we are now going to be getting $40 an hour per deputy at a total of $126,000 a year that the school will write a check to the Gillespie County for in April at the end of the school year, towards the end of the school year. This is the current contract. So one of the things that I asked for, yes, and this is on the agenda for Tuesday, just approved it with the board. They just approved it. But 2 things I've asked for was hourly rate to be $40 an hour to increase what we're receiving from the school. And the second thing was a 3-year contract. So that way we knew that they would be in contract with us for 3 years. So we didn't have to worry about whether or not they decided to get rid of us a year later. So we could count that money for at least 3 years. We also left it open in that contract to where we can actually increase the hourly rate if we should have to do that. So that's the variable that still exists in that contract with the school.
How many resources?
Okay.
How many resources?
Right now, just 2. Right now, just 2. I would like to sit down with the new superintendent of Harper and discuss with them, see what we can consider helping out over there. The House bill.
They have their own over there right now.
They have their chief, so to speak, yes, sir. So I'm just saying we would consider working with them somehow or some way. You have to realize that Harper it's hard to be maintaining that place 24/7. And so to have a deputy that could be paid for by someone else to be there, that would be extremely huge. And right now, the big talk is House Bill 33, the Uvalde Strong. And I just came back from the Sheriff's Association in Fort Worth. And then I went to Conroe, to the Public Information Officer. Biggest topic was House Bill 33. That's huge in the eyes of our state. And a lot of that is mandated by the governor's office. And I'm going to talk about how we could also reach out for funds through grants through this House Bill 33 for us to gain some equipment.
So what is it going to be mandated?
So pretty much it's mandated across state, every school.
No, what is it going to be? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, it's across every school. And what's mandated is they have to have either security or a form of law enforcement, or they create their own guardian program, which to me is, and I'm
I
not
thought it was
talking-
already mandated that they have.
Yes, they have to have one of those 3. But to me, if you're gonna if I'm gonna put your kids in a school, I'm not knocking the security company and I'm not knocking the guardians, but I would much rather have a marked unit that sits out front, one as a deterrent. And two, a person that is dressed just like I am, that if there is a crisis, can immediately go to their radio and go direct to dispatch. Right now, a security guard has to dial 911 just to get to us, for us to be dispatched and then respond. So this cuts to the chase.
But I think the question was,
I'm sorry, go ahead. Maybe I missed
was,
something.
it's mandated that the schools have somebody in the office
Yes, sir.
already. So what is this Senate Bill 33?
Same thing, that's, the Senate bill is just continuing on. In other words, this one.
It's not anything new potentially.
No, it's not anything
It's
new.
just a matter of how do they meet the requirements of.
Right. So, when I sat down with the school, they were gonna pay a security guard $40 an hour, and I said, look, that doesn't make any sense to me as a sheriff, because if we're gonna put our deputies in there, we should be making $40 an hour, because we bring all the tools, and they agreed. And that's why we redid the contract. But the other comfort zone I wanted as a sheriff is that we knew for 3 years that we would have that, that we could count on that money, we could count on those positions, and they couldn't just pull out all of a sudden, so we knew we had that coming in. So 126 is what we're looking at. Let's get to the next handout, which is going to be the CID, Criminal Investigations Division. It wouldn't take you much to see what our criminal investigations have done over the past. So if you look at what's in there, right now they're working 138 cases. That's just from January to this last week when LB put this together, compared to the 85 cases they worked last year. One of the things is that we are working every case to its fullest to determine whether it's criminal or not, but they're going to do it. But at the same time, they have a lot of work. In some of these cases, it requires 2 investigators. If we get the increase in patrol, that allows us to slide an individual over into CID to help offset some of that work that they're doing currently. And these guys are responding to calls all hours of the night to assist patrol, and they are doing an outstanding job of these investigations. And then they're completely working with our county attorney's office and the district attorney's office to make sure that we get good convictions. So these guys are earning their keep, but they need help. No different than mental health needs help, and no different than the narcotics needs help. To continue to do that, protecting our community. I'll let y'all look at that later. If we go on to the next one, the next handout is going to be our stats year to date. It is 2 pages so that we look back. We really outstandingly found 2021 and brought us all the way to 2026. And if you look at the consistent increase in our calls per year, and right now, and current to date, we're at 1,292 calls. And if you look at what we're doing, good. Yes. Gotcha. I'll get that, yeah. So if you look at these calls, usually these calls require 2 deputies at a time to respond to these calls. The disturbance calls could probably require 3 or more depending on what's going on. Then you have if you have a dead on arrival call, 2 are gonna show up because they're gonna say that they shot themselves. We're not gonna send 1 deputy because we're gonna assume it was suicide because someone found them. We're gonna send deputies there until they determine otherwise. So if you look at pretty much the majority of these calls, there's at least 2 deputies responding to this call from across the county to make sure they're there. The increase would change a lot of that because then we would have a rotating system where we have a rover and a sergeant, and my ultimate goes to have a canine per unit, per shift. But the reality is we are not going backwards as far as call volume, we're only increasing. So if you look at our projected for 2026, we're looking at 2,584 calls that we could wind up taking. And again, a lot of these are major calls where we're requiring 2 or more deputies to respond.
Is any of this just like you're driving through a parking lot and you're just calling it in? Is that a
No,
call?
no.
Y'all took that out?
No,
This is just 2 or more respondents.
this is just calls. No, the only credit they get for that is for me. And the reason that goes to me is because people will say, hey, you had a deputy swing by, I appreciate you, Sheriff. That's for me. That is not for y'all. That is for me. To me, that's part of what they should be doing on patrol. Cruising through parking lots, cruising through businesses, shaking a hand, that's part of their patrol shift. I expect the deputies to do at least 15 things during a 12-hour shift that requires them to connect with the community in some form. And that's traffic stops, whether they run a warning or a ticket, it counts. If they do motorist assist, I give them 2 bonus points for that, but yeah. But these are strictly what we take as 911 calls or wrecks or whatever we might roll on. Or if we, let's just say this, if, for example, today when the deputy got partially drugged by that car, all the deputies were responding to him to back him up. So you're looking at 2 or more. So here, I know exactly where you're going. No, this is not just miscellaneous we're driving through. We have those numbers, but this is strictly what we're looking at. We're working
Yeah,
on.
that was just padding. That's just like when
Yes,
they're
no,
sending a
I
fire
don't
truck to every
believe that.
accident.
No,
They-
sir. No. I can't say enough about the patrol shift since I've taken office. I told them that the more you do, the more likely you're gonna get into stuff, and the answer to that has been true. These guys are getting into things, they're getting the foot chases, they're getting the wrestling matches, things that when you deal with the bad people of this community, you're gonna get into. See, you also, if you get a 911 and it's a hang up, we're sending 2 deputies. You know, we're not just sending 1 deputy by himself. And I'm not mentioning Cromer, but anyways, but you think about Cromer Lane out there, how far that is for a deputy to get to. And I'm not sure if he's related to anyone out there, but anyways, a deputy by himself could be, I drove from all the way 290 east, all the way to Harper, and it was 33 miles. And that deputy already had a halfway lead on me. So he's on his own. So when I came through town, I only went code 2 because I didn't want to go too fast. But once I hit 290 west, I'm rocking. I'm getting at 110, 105, but that deputy doesn't need to be by himself. And that's the problem with the current situation is you have 4, maximum 5 people. 2 deputies are gonna have to cross the county to get to that one problem, maybe 3, depending on the proximity. So having more staff allows us to lead people in different areas. When we consider Fredericksburg as the center of our county, in some cases, if it works out, they're almost better off being like the fire department, hanging out here and responding from here, because geographically it's the same going in either direction. But if I put them out in Willow City and that deputy needs help and the other 2 are involved in something else, now that deputy has to leave Willow City and traverse all the way to Hartford to get to back up that deputy. So that's what you have to consider. Putting them in central location is actually not a bad plan right now without the manpower. Once we get the manpower, then yes, we can leave those guys out there. Then you have a rover and a sergeant that can go to that particular region and back them up, or go to that region and back them up, but this would be secondary response at that point. That's how we did it in Kendall County. We had them assigned to a district, and then the rover and the sergeant would be the backup to those officers in the different districts they were in. And they were required to stay in that district. Right now, I can't do that with the manpower that we have.
What do you have on shift per?
On a good day, 5, on an average 4 right now. And a lot of that is because they got to get time off. They get sick or whatever. So we are bringing in off-duty deputies and they're coming in, and I'm gonna knock on wood, they don't grind. They do it because they know we need it. We're paying a lot of overtime because of it, but it is what it is. You know, so if you have a 6-man crew and one person calls in sick, I don't have to bring anyone in. I got 5 so that can maintain the county. I don't have to bring someone in, so that's saving us on overtime. But the biggest problem is not just necessarily the overtime. It's that guy that is now, I'll give you a good example. Dustin McGraw was working 7 days straight because we didn't have enough people to maintain 216 courtroom. We asked Dustin to come in on that Thursday. Well, unfortunately it flooded, but he wound up helping us tremendously on response to low water crossings and everything. So without him, we would have been shorthanded. I didn't even go to the EOC because when I got into the system, we had deputies covering the east side of the county and Harper area flooding. And then when I asked, I reached out, called Tango 82 and said, hey, can you get a deputy up there so he can give us an idea of what's going on? They did it tremendously. Dustin DeGraw, Sergeant DeGraw jumped in it. He flew over and he's very familiar with the area. He said, Sheriff, it's coming. At the same time, I'm getting text messages from some older Germans that said they haven't seen it this bad since 1978. So DeGraw's telling me it's bad. They're telling me it's bad. So myself and Lieutenant McDonald immediately drove to Stonewall and started warning people on the riverbanks, the RV parks. At some point, we were overwhelmed. The PD asked if they could assist, and I said, absolutely. If you can maintain the RV parks, we'll move into Ranch Road 1, which at that point, we went knocking door to door, warning people, get stuff hooked up, and whatever. We would not have been able to do that had I not been out and McDonald been out if we weren't available, something like that. So having more manpower is definitely gonna help. Let's go to the next one. Resources that we're looking at, that we can look at to get money for us to bring us in there. So with the MOU with the school district, we're looking at 126,000. I had a meeting with Judge Patello, the district attorney's office, Judge Evans, and the county attorney's office. We have a lot of outstanding warrants out there. If we can get a division of the jail or the the bailiff stuff, we can actually get those guys while they're doing in between downtime, they could be doing a list of warrants that we can then give patrol, that we can then go execute, that would create financial funds for some of those positions that we would have in the courthouse. Other courthouses are doing that. They have a warrant division. And I already have a vision of that. Actually, there's something on my mind. And when they reached out, I said, hey, you're calling me at the right time, because that's something I can see that we can generate a lot of money. There's millions of dollars sitting there in fines and restitution that we should be collecting as a county that they can go after. The Uvalde Strawing has a grant. The House Bill 33 has a grant so that we can talk to our new grant writer to start looking at that. We are currently using Senate Bill 22 money for the mandated equipment, body cameras, card cameras, etc. And then if you, we have other grants that we'll find out in September whether we get it or not. We've applied for 3 other grants that we're waiting on. But then working, if you look at that handout that's given to you, this one here, if you look at that, since we've taken office, John, more than me, but we actually met with Methodists, had to sit down with them about their billing, everything. And because of working with Rosalinda Hoof, we are at savings of about 128,000 this year. Don't laugh at me just for saying the last name. I want to say it wrong anyway. But working together, that pays for a salary in itself by working together, keeping that money low that we bring to the table for that. And the other one that we're working on currently,
Excuse
and
me,
we're looking at,
was
we
that
have-
part of the external nurse group helping on that as well?
no, that's different.
So they don't have to keep these expenses down on our inmates?
Oh, they have, yes, they have.
Yes,
That's what I'm
so
saying.
that-
It's an all the above, but
This is a billing issue.
yes.
More than it is us sending people to the hospital. We were receiving bills from every agency around.
Yes,
So if a PD officer arrests somebody for DWI, they take them to the hospital for a blood draw. For some reason, they think all the bills need to come to us. They can't differentiate between the different agencies. We were getting the bills for DPS, for the PD, for Parks and Wildlife. We were getting bills for people that weren't in custody at the time they got treatment.
Mhm.
So between me and Rosalinda, we managed to whittle through all of these as they come in and divert them to where they need to go. She can probably explain some more to it, but it was a billing issue with the hospital. For most of that was.
Okay.
That was part of that's part of the problem. But with this new administration, working very, very closely with all of the team, including the auditor's office, myself, is that we have saved a lot of money. And this new administration has really, really worked closely with me by assisting in getting contracts for them. A good example, prior, we would get a $50,000 bill. Say you got a $1,000 bill from the dentist. Who were paying $1,000 to a dentist? Nobody pays $1,000. So by the new administration working with other departments, including myself, that has helped out a lot. In the meantime, what we're doing, and I myself want to thank, my team, you all, especially Judge Jones, allowing me to work, giving me the opportunity to work with the sheriff's department to lower this down. You all have a dashboard report that'll show you how much it has saved. And I will continue to work, with your all approval with the sheriff's department.
Thank you.
so the last one I'm gonna bring up that's a potential financial support for us as a sheriff's office is that the 287G task force model that we are currently involved in. That could potentially bring us anywhere between $330,000 to $420,000. We have, the problem is it's a slow process to get the money, but it does come in. I've been working with, the auditor's office, Marcy, to create a line, because that money can only be spent on law enforcement. So down the road, that could offset vehicles, it could offset. I spoke at the sheriff's conference, I spoke with the sheriff that he was struggling for vehicles. As soon as he got his check, and he only has 6 deputies, but it came out to like $9,000 that he got, and he went out and bought a car right away with that money. So I'm not saying that we'll get it tomorrow, but I will say that at some point we will get that, so that by next year, we maybe consider using it in a different way.
So essentially, the federal government would compensate you for your
Yes, sir.
activities.
That we do not get any amount of money per individual. What we did is we get a participation amount. So each deputy can get up to 15,000 doing the job, working the task force model with the feds. So we just, we gotta look for ways to, I'm asking for a lot, but at the same time, I think that as a sheriff's office, and that includes everyone, and that includes patrol, that includes everyone in our office, the deputies go, Sheriff, we found out about this particular grant, put it together, let me see it. Everyone knows that we are looking for everything that we want, but they have to make their own effort for the financial part of it. This gentleman who's finally sitting next to me, he's the one that gets all the information from me, and then he's able to start saying this, and I will tell you, talks to the auditor, talks to the treasurer, but the big thing is I feel like that our efforts on our end is helping to offset some of the stuff. All right, the next slide, this is yours. We've told you our needs, we've told you what we're looking for. I'm just asking you to put in there what you think that we need or what you feel like we have earned. I will say that I've been at this 19 months, and I can assure you that our guys have earned their paychecks every month. Yes, there are times when it's quiet, and that's usually when the public sees us, is when we actually have some downtime. One of the things that I've implemented for July is for the patrol sergeants to start working with the patrol shifts on getting in better physical shape. That would eliminate some of the injuries that we were seeing. It'll also help when we go to arrest somebody. But the other thing that you have to consider for what we do for a living is that there's research that says for a police officer or a soldier, the people they work with become more close to them than their family. And I have to admit that 100% based on my career, but it's because my job is to make sure that that deputy goes home to his family, and that deputy is making sure that I get to go home to my family. So when we talk about them eating together or working out together, there's going to be days that they won't ever have that opportunity because it's so busy, but there's going to be those days that they can. And I've asked the sergeants to be very particular on when they do that. But you also have to understand that bond that I'm not knocking any other department in the county, but we do a totally different system of thinking and visual. We've unfortunately had 2 people killed on 290 West that were hit by 18-wheelers, so you can only imagine the results. And our deputies assisted with those investigations and also assisted in the body recovery. So these are things they don't leave on the street. They take that stuff home with them. The last thing I want to say to you guys is that, man, I've been blessed. Whew. Can't even begin to tell you how passionate about this job I am. But I am Gillespie County proud. What I've asked for is not because of what Sheriff Ayala says he wants. It's because what Sheriff Ayala talking to his staff, seeing these guys work the 12-hour shifts, seeing what they see in the jail, seeing what they see on patrol. I come to these calls. I was at the explosion. I was started on scene at the explosion at residence. I saw people that I knew in ways that I never wanted to see them. That's the same thing these deputies are in that mode. So when you think about what we're doing as a county, we're not just talking to people. We are seeing things that go beyond the scope of normal thoughts. One of the biggest things that I have really pushed, and the guys hopefully will tell you, I check on them regularly. How are you doing after that call? Are you doing good at this call? Roy McCullough went back to work. I gave him some options. One is he had to go see a therapist or a psychologist, or I rode out with him for the first shift that he came back. We had a good time. So he did not want to go to a psychologist therapist, but it gave me a chance as a sheriff who has experience in shootings to be able to look at him and say, I think he's going to be good. I think he's going to be well. But the options are still there. I'm extremely Gillespie County proud, and that's part of what you guys make happen too by what you do. But as far as the Gillespie County Sheriff's Office, we've had a good time for 19 months, and I hope that we continue to do that. But we need resources. Thank you. Are any questions? Charles usually has one.
What's for lunch?
I have one question
Yes, sir.
about the step plan for the sheriff's office. And we approved, Commissioner's Court approved a step plan prior to your taking office. And I didn't know if you were intending to modify that in some way based on some of these requests, or how you wanted to proceed with that.
So yes, we do want to modify that. Phillips and I sat down for really like 3 weeks, trying to come up with the best way. I've reached out to other counties to see what they're doing. There is a program out there which I like. It's basically an individual. If you have all these certifications, this is what you make based on your certifications, your background, and performance, of course. And so we've had too many to look at to say this is where we're going. Right now, we're kind of just managing what was approved by and as we go, we've only been at this 19 months. It's kind of like as we go, we're learning that the county policy doesn't work well with our sheriff's office policy because we do a different job. The requirements for a physical and psychological is different than a physical for a road hand. So that's the things that we're trying to tie in together to eventually. We eventually will come to you with that. I got to say that he and I will show up and I have a list of 10 things I want to get done. Next thing you know, it's 4:45 and I've done one on that list because of the constant things that are happening throughout the day for us to share some. But we're working on it.
So is that something you want to try to do this before this budget?
Yes, sir. We were trying to get past this. Okay, John.
I've already done a proposed one,
But that would be for the jail.
Okay.
with the way that it is set up right now, with what was requested. So that's just on.
Just adjusting everything up based on that request.
Was the jail on the STEP program?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, right now they're divided on how they get paid, et cetera. And that includes Carl and Billy Schmidt falls under the jail right now. That's where they fall. So we're looking at them too as far as increases go.
And if approved, these other jailers and the transporters, that is all going to stay underneath the jail?
Yes, that all falls under the jail.
Why is that? That
That's
seems.
the way it's been, and I gotta be quite honest with you, it is, as we've seen in the past, it's really difficult to make any moves from the jail unless we do it pre-budget. Because once you approve the budget for how much, it's still one office, but how we do it is separated at this point. We inherited that, and I see like in Kendall, the jailers, everything, they all kind of work together, but they did have a different step. And then they had a jailer level step, and then they had a control level step, and then they had administration, so.
Also, like if their primary duty does not involve patrol, then that they're, like for SB 22 purposes, for example, like they're categorized different for that. So like Carl's he doesn't patrol, he's, essentially here. And so that might be some of the reason for that distinction also, but.
We're growing, that's all there is to it, yes, sir.
Yeah, so, first of all, I appreciate all of the information and the passion behind all this. A couple of questions. One is how much does the jail and the sheriff's office cost the taxpayer for this fiscal year? How much do you think that is?
If you look at $80 a day, we're at 80 to 90 people a day. That kind of gives you a number on that.
Anyway, the number
I would
is
say-
almost $10 million.
Yes.
Yeah.
Our total budget is for the sheriff is 12, 11 something, so we're pushing 12.
Well, that included the capitalization, that wasn't really expenditure.
Uh-huh.
But how much increases are you asking for? Do you know what that is?
Yes, sir. We're asking for at least 2 million is what we're asking for.
So, our tax base didn't hardly grow year over year.
Yes,
So
sir.
this is a $2 million ask that we're gonna have to go to the taxpayers on.
Right.
So this is where we're gonna have to try to balance this. And that includes all of the other asks that other departments have as well.
Right.
So that's the challenge that we're gonna have, is how do we fit this all together?
And the only thing I say to that, Don, is the fact, Commissioner, is the fact that when bad happens and they look at us and say, why this or why that? Then I gotta say, well, we didn't raise taxes, so this is what we could afford, or
Yeah.
this is what I don't wanna say that. I'll give you an example at that explosion. When we arrived on scene, I was there within 8 minutes. Constable, Hilario was there 4 minutes because he lives on 87. The upset people were, where are the fire trucks? Where are the ambulances? Where is everybody? And I said, they're on the way. So after it was all over, I was able to walk over and explain to them, we run at 110, 120 miles an hour. They run at max 70, 75. So there's an expectation that these people believe that we're going to be on scene. We're going to be ready to take care of the problem within minutes. But to any individual that's looking for help, 7 minutes is a long time, 4 minutes is a long time. If we can increase our patrol staff, we can knock that down. And here's the way I look at it for fire departments and so forth. If I had the ability to say, hey, Harper, we put on a full-time night shift that answers calls in Harper right away, because realistically, if we have a major accident, that deputy sitting there with that wreck, and these people dying or bleeding, 15, 20 minutes trying to comfort them, because we're waiting on volunteers, and even better yet, we're waiting on Fredericksburg Fire Department and EMS in some cases to respond all the way to Harper. So what I'm looking at is a way that at least if we have the manpower, our response times will be better. And it still could be that the deputy's there on his own, like we had a man with a gun the other night that was holding his girlfriend hostage. No guy wants to be in that position by himself, but it is what it is.
Yeah, again, I'm not arguing the need. I'm trying to put in perspective the practical aspect of us putting together a whole county budget and then basically saying, we're gonna raise property taxes.
Right.
I mean, that's where the challenge and the balance.
I agree with you 100%. No, yes, sir. Charles, I'm waiting.
I want to listen to Mr.
I wanted
John.
to clear something up about the jail pay increase, the request. That doesn't include me or the lieutenant. That is the guys on the floor, the sergeants down, from the higher to the sergeants. That doesn't include us. We're not included in that. You know, y'all know this, we are your largest department, but we're also your largest liability by far of any other department in the county.
I hear that every time I go to training. You know, as a sheriff, you hold on like this. I've been told a couple of times.
So we can cut our liability if we just get rid of the sheriff's office.
I think that's what he just said.
Yeah, get rid of the jail.
No, we definitely understand and appreciate everything y'all do.
Well, sir.
We built the numbers because that's the need.
Yes.
That's it.
And so if we didn't come with a number saying this is what we need to be where we need to be,
Mhm.
then we're not doing what we need to be.
Right.
And taking all that
Yeah.
into account.
And we may have to take steps on some of that. We may not get it all this year, but
Right.
next year we do.
And that's one of the reasons why going into this 287G, we're doing the work. Next year, I may not have to ask for so much.
Yeah.
As we do, but at the
I wasn't
same
aware
time-
that they would fund that, so that's.
Right, right. And I think it's my responsibility as a sheriff to seek out other
Sure.
funds that we can jump onto.
Yeah.
And I even left out the 100 Club and the private donors that have exceedingly stepped up to the plate.
Mhm.
And I always sit with the doctors out with my second commissioner's report, and he said, do you thank the community? I said, I'm gonna ask, and they have been tremendous, Don.
Yeah.
And we can't thank the community enough, but at the same time, we gotta provide for them as well too.
You're asking for 7 new patrol deputies is what you're labeling them as. Where are they going to land
So-
eventually? Because that's almost 2 per shift.
Yeah, so here's what's gonna happen. If we get that, then we're gonna be moving an individual with experience going into CID, an individual with experience going into narcotics, another one with experience is gonna go into the mental health, so that we have these divisions complete. And then that still leaves the patrol shifts full. Does that make sense? Because we took technically 1, 2, 3, 4 off of patrol because the need was there. And I'm a firm believer, I'm poor, been all my life. If I don't make payments, it ain't gonna happen. If I say I'm gonna wait till I have enough money to have kids, I've never had a kid. If I say I'm gonna wait till I have enough money to buy a car or a boat, I'm never gonna get it. But with this system, I knew the need for mental health was huge for our county. I knew the need for narcotics I worked with the school systems. I saw our kids getting on narcotics. That became priority. Those two became extreme priority. But in order to make that happen, I had to take the manpower from one location to make that work. And I will do that until the day I don't have to do that and wear a uniform. But I still love what I do. God blesses me with the physical abilities to still do it. I'm gonna do it. But that's helping offset that. That's why the day of the floods, my role was not going to the EOC at that point. It was to assist patrol being out on the streets. And I knocked on just as many doors as anyone else did. The good news for me is one lady, she had the phone numbers to everybody on that strip. So she was calling everybody. I said, if they don't answer, I'll run it that way. We only had one that didn't answer. But I think as a sheriff, being on scene, I can dictate what's actually happening. I don't take anything from the EOC. For me, that's a later traversing too, but on scene, me seeing everything visually is extremely important. So that's what's gonna happen when we get, so last year we wanted to ask for 8, and then we were gonna make the moves if we had the 8, but it didn't work out that way. So this is basically doing what we wanted to do last year. So they're gonna be, I'd rather take guys, so one of my rules is if we hire somebody and we have a position open, we're going to the people that have already put in their time and their effort with the sheriff's office, and they have the experience, but most importantly, their time in, they get first dibs of any opening. If they do not want it, then I will look at a new hire that's capable of doing that. But I'm always gonna give the current staff the first shot at any movement and promotion. So, yeah. And I appreciate y'all, don't think that I don't, I get your dilemma, that's why I left it open on that one slide, because y'all have to sit down and do the numbers. I'm with you on that, there's no negativity there.
And for some reason, it's always us raising the tax rate. It's never y'all. I haven't figured that out yet.
I told that to like 300 people, I'm just kidding. Yes, no, but again, I'm proud because I think that the Gillespie County people think I don't have to do it, maybe 5% of the problems and the rest of everybody's doing the right thing. And that's why I say to people, why I'm Gillespie County proud, because 95% of our population is doing exactly what we ask of them. They maintain, they do the right things, they make the decisions, which allows us to handle the negatives and so forth. So,
Well, we're very proud of the sheriff from the jail. And all
thank
that.
you. We're blessed, yes, sir. All right, Charles, last opportunity. All right, thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you,
You're
sir.
welcome.
Thank you,
I
gentlemen.
figured out what Cromer was doing in the yard laying on him. He passed out from hunger.
That's hilarious. I said, how does Cromer get his own lane?
All right, anything else, commissioners, before we break for lunch?
Nope.
Okay, it's 12:15 PM. What time do y'all want to return?
Tomorrow.
1:15,
1:30.
1:30.
I have one probate, is that two? I have a
Was that
probate at
10
2
minutes?
o'clock, hopefully.
I'm in mine.
I also have a meeting at 3 though. I have a debris management meeting at 3.
What?
Some kind of disaster management.
So do you want to do it earlier and try to zoom through it?
Can we do it 1:15? Can y'all be back
Yeah.
in an hour?
1:15 work.
Okay. All right, it's 12:16 PM. We're going to recess for lunch and we will reconvene at 1:15 PM.
No. I'm doing it tomorrow at 10 o'clock.
Do they have it today?
You can do it anytime.